What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 5's Monday Night Showdown on DraftKings and Fanduel. If you've been here before, you know how this goes. I compare both sides, try to find some plays on one side that the other side doesn't have. Look for values on both sides and just compare, contrast, and then try to help you guys make some decisions for tonight's game. Now, this one is probably the closest that I've ever seen FanDuel and DraftKings get their pricing so similar. Now, pricing is going to be different just because on FanDuel you have 5 players and 60 grand. On DraftKings you have 6 players and 50 grand, and the prices are lower, but you also have to pay that premium for the captain. So, they're pretty similar. So I'll just go over it. So on DraftKings, your top 4 players. Obviously, you know it's going to be the 2 quarterbacks, Devonte and Kelsey. DraftKings, they have Mahomes, Adams, Kelsey, Carr. FanDuel, it's Mahomes, Carr, Adams, Kelsey. So you're paying more, essentially, on FanDuel for Derek Carr than you are in DraftKings. You're paying less for Devonte, and you're paying even less for Kelsey. On DraftKings, you're getting Derek Carr, the cheapest of the 4. Then you get Josh Jacobs, Edwards-Helaire, Waller, Juju. Josh Jacobs, Waller, Juju, or Edwards, Jacobs, Waller, Juju, sorry. So you just get Jacobs, Helaire, 500 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's 1,400. So you get a bit of a difference there. And then you go down, you go past the backup quarterbacks. On FanDuel, you go down and you get past the kickers and defense. Then you get Hunter, Renfro, MVS, Matt Collins, Hardman. On DraftKings, Renfro, MVS, Hollins, Pacheco, Hardman, but Pacheco's there on FanDuel. So they're very similar. It's not like one site has a player very undervalued than the other. And then you get the defenses, kickers, and some of the bottom end players for tonight's slate. It's the same thing on FanDuel. So just based off of looking at these teams, there is not a screaming amount of value tonight. I think the only value play, like the only huge value play that comes tonight is if Juju is out. If Juju is out, Sky Moore at 2,400 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, Sky Moore is down here at 6,000. If Juju is out or probably going to be limited, it's something you have to watch for. Sky Moore then becomes a play, just because of how cheap he's going to be, and we know what Kansas City does with their offense. But we'll start at the top on both, so we'll go over it. So Mahomes is doing something that he's done quite a bit in his career. He's playing a primetime game. Mahomes barely plays that noon game on Sunday. He's either playing an afternoon game or he's playing a primetime game. The advantage here is he's at home as well. So you're getting Mahomes at home on a primetime game against a division opponent who's been playing very under their potential, in my opinion, of the Derek Carr Raiders. The difference in this game compared to others is Derek Carr now gets all his weapons back. He has Adams healthy. Adams has been healthy. He gets Renfro healthy, though, who's been out with a concussion for a couple weeks now, basically. And Darren Waller going to be there as well. So Derek Carr doesn't have a lot of excuses in this game to not put up points. He's facing a Chiefs defense that's playing fairly well. But I don't think we're seeing a lot of testing from them. Their secondary is playing the best we've seen in a long time. But I still think it could be exploited. They have a lot of those same pieces. They've upgraded some guys. But I believe it still could be exploited. So Mahomes, Derek Carr, FanDuel, 2 of the most expensive. DraftKings, like I said, you get that discount on... you get a sort of discount on Derek Carr. He's still a top 4 player. But he's 4th instead of 2nd. Now, as far as fantasy points for the quarterback, it's obviously going to be Mahomes. I mean, you can just look at his recent game log, and you look week 1 against Arizona, 37 fantasy points. Gets a primetime game against the Chargers, 17.3. They did do some fun stuff there. Against the Colts, just bad game in general. And then last week's primetime game against Tampa Bay gets 24 points. So Mahomes is clearly a guy that you want to have in your lineup. And you look at Derek Carr's numbers, and it's, I mean, if you look at the pass attempts, the touchdown, stuff like that, he doesn't put up huge amount of fantasy points. So if you're going to go quarterback, it's going to be Mahomes. If you want to play both quarterbacks, I don't think it's bad necessarily. But I would just lean towards going Mahomes and finding value elsewhere, especially with all the weapons that Derek Carr has. Those guys getting more points per yard and then getting the reception bonus as well is, to me, it's a bigger thing. Devonte Adams, to me, this is the play tonight. I know Devonte Adams, as far as what we've been used to Devonte Adams doing, has been underperforming, but I still feel like he's been up there. 3 touchdowns on the year. You look, targets, he's got 10 plus targets in 3 out of his 4 games. The only one is in week 2. But I believe in a game like this, Devonte Adams is where he shines. They're going to try to use Devonte Adams as much as they can. He's got a good matchup tonight. He's not going to see much of any Ladarius Sneed, which is Kansas City's best corner, one of the best corners in the league currently. But at 11-4, that's the guy I want. So if you're not stacking the 4, which is perfectly fine, you never have to stack the top 4 players, which is typically the quarterbacks and the 2 top weapons. That's what it is. The top weapon for each team, which is Devonte Adams, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is facing one of the better passing defensive linebackers in the league. But it's clearly, it does not matter who Travis Kelce faces. Look at last week, for an example, against Tampa Bay. Travis Kelce still eats. Like, it does not matter. Only goes upwards of 100 yards once this season. Still has the 3 touchdowns for a tight end. That's a great play. Now let's go to the running backs. Josh Jacobs here, 8,800. I think he's too much on DraftKings for me. Now, obviously, you see of the usage that he got last week against Denver. 2 touchdowns, 6 targets, 31 yards there. Only 1 fumble in the year. But my problem is he's facing what is considered the best rush defense in the league. And I won't say they're the best rush defense in the league because they're so good against the run. It's the offense of Kansas City scores so much points, you're not able to run. Now, you could still run the ball, by all means, and maybe get a decent amount of yards. But you just have to pace Kansas City's offense. It's just how you have to play Kansas City. You're not able to run the ball. So if you like Josh Jacobs at 8,800, you have to hope that he gets these receptions, that he gets 5 receptions and he gets yards. That is what you're hoping he pays off for. Now, Edwards-Helaire is still having a rough matchup here against Vegas. They've been pretty decent against the run. But Edwards-Helaire has 5 touchdowns this year. 3 of them come in the receiving game, which means he's getting targets in the end zone. Edwards-Helaire is doing what we kind of hoped for after his rookie year when he got banged up. This is what we wanted out of him. Now, the worry was, that I said, that Vegas has been pretty good against the run, and you look at his rushing attempts. 7 for 42, 8 for 74, 7 for 0. I mean, you look at the yards per attempt, really good. But he gets there in the receiving game as well, which is where he gets some of those points. And then the touchdowns come in as well. Week 2 against the Chargers, primetime game. Does not get a touchdown, gets you 15 points. So if you're going to go running back tonight, I would go Edwards-Helaire. You get a discount. On DraftKings, Fanduel, you're only paying $500 more, so it's not like it's a huge thing there. Darren Waller against the Chiefs. Still, it's not one of the better matchups, but it's a matchup I think Darren Waller will do well in. As you can see, kind of since Hunter Renfro's been out, Darren Waller hasn't been as efficient. It's just because Renfro is your slot receiver, and what he's able to do with his route running kind of makes it a little more difficult for teams to stack the inside of just Darren Waller. Darren Waller is not just an inside route runner, don't get me wrong. But when you have someone like Hunter Renfro that can kind of open up that middle of the field, it's gonna be something that benefits Darren Waller. And I do like Darren Waller on both sides. I think 10-5 is kind of where you want him at FanDuel. DraftKings 7-2. He's kind of that mid-tier player that you pay up for. So if you're not playing two of these top guys, so say we're going to go in the flex and say I like Mahomes and Adams. I like both of them a lot. Now let's just say, for instance, we're not playing Kelce or Carr. We put Darren Waller in there. It doesn't break our bank that much. We're still at 6,400. FanDuel will do the same thing. Remember, FanDuel doesn't have the price adjustment for the captain. Everyone's pretty much at price. So whoever you think is going to be the high scoring player is who you want in the MVP. It's not going to affect you that much. But we put Waller in there, and it's not that bad. Like, you could do a whole lot worse with what you have there. And let's continue. So like I said, Juju is dealing with a hamstring problem right now. Was limited in the practice on Saturday. They said he tightened it up, I believe is what was reported. So I'm going to stay away from Juju. If he plays and he has a really good game, by all means, I'll take the loss on that. But I'm not going to risk Juju with a hamstring issue, which is very tough to play with. You could still play with it, and people have. They've done it. But it's not something I want to take a risk on. Now we go to kickers. We'll go to kickers really quick just because they're here. Kickers defense on FanDuel. So kickers, Carlson, if you look at what Carlson's done for the Raiders, he's getting field goal attempts. The Raiders haven't been the best at closing out in the red zone, but the Chiefs have been pretty subpar in the red zone, which means the Raiders might be able to score more points than they're used to, but they haven't performed. Getting someone like Hunter Renfro, though, might help them. So maybe you see Carlson's points go down, but he's been pretty consistent. 12 for 12 on field goal attempts. So both kickers, I think if you're doing quite a few lines, you're going to want to have one or two for that instance. The defenses, I'm probably going to stay away. It's something that if you're doing 150 lines, by all means, you should have some type of ownership on the defenses. But if you're only playing 5 to 10, I'm probably not going to have any of the defenses. I just think both offenses are capable of scoring so many points that I'm not wanting to take that risk in tonight's game. So let's go down to that next tier of players. So we're passing the quarterbacks on DraftKings. On FanDuel, we're passing the defenses and kickers. We start off with Hunter Renfro facing L'Jarius Sneed. It's not the greatest matchup for him. I'm probably going to stay away from Renfro. I like Waller. I like Hollins. And I definitely like Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams, I'll keep saying it, is my favorite play tonight. Hunter Renfro, I'm probably going to stay away from. Maybe on FanDuel, because of his pricing, I can lean towards there. I just think it's going to be a rough matchup against L'Jarius Sneed. And Waller and Devonte and even Matt Collins have better opportunities tonight. And then we go to MVS. If you're going to go a Kansas City receiver tonight, I'm leaning towards Hardman. MVS is definitely there. We've seen some missed opportunities with MVS lately, him and Mahomes, but he's the second most targeted receiver behind Juju. Travis Kelce's obviously the number one, but he's the tight end. As far as receiver, it's MVS. Hardman has the better matchup tonight, but as far as targets, I mean, you look at the last 2 weeks, 2 targets in the last 2 weeks. But what that says to me personally, when I see something like that and I see what the Chiefs offense is capable of doing, some things they like to do, this could be a game where he has a bounce back game, and gets 6-7 targets, especially if Juju's out. Hardman could take that next step. 2 targets in the last 2 games. Believe this could easily be a bounce back game. Sky Moore, 5 targets. He got 4 targets last week. So that's something to look for with the injury news of Juju. Even if Juju plays, he could still be the number 1 target, but I believe Hardman has a very good opportunity to bounce back tonight. Then we look at Matt Collins. If you're looking to play another Raiders wide receiver, Hollins, I don't really recommend it. I'd probably go Renfro on DraftKings just because of the price difference. 58 and 5 on FanDuel, you're getting 1,000. It's almost the same. But on DraftKings, it's 600 is not that much compared to FanDuel. You could do a lot with 1,000. Isaiah Pacheco looked very good last week. Very, very good against that Tampa Bay run defense. Don't know why I clicked Sky Moore. We're going to go to Pacheco up here at 4,800. 11 attempts, 63 yards, no receptions, no targets. Very good on the run game. Like I mentioned, Vegas is fairly good against the run. DraftKings, I think he's just too much, though, at 4,800 for not getting any targets. FanDuel, it's a different story. He's 7,000, and I kind of like that at 7,000 for Pacheco, especially if the Chiefs take a big lead. Look for someone like Pacheco to try to get more attempts and then try to see what they could do with him. Other than that, Brandon Bolden for receptions. You can look on DraftKings here. Brandon Bolden down here at 2,000 on FanDuel, 6,500. Don't like him in the run game at all. I just like him for targets. Josh Jacobs has been used more in the receiving game, though, lately. But it's a play. Zamir White is someone that I'd like to see the Raiders use more. They just really haven't. Foster Moreau plays, they like to use the tight ends. I mean, you look at 8 targets in the last 2 weeks. Might have something to do with Renfro being out. So it's something to look for. Watson for Kansas City is another dart throw. I mean, he's gotten a target in every game. So there's that. But he gets that long touchdown against Kansas City. It's a dart throw. I wouldn't have much of any ownership. Unless you're doing 150, then you're going to throw someone like him in there. And then you look at someone like Noah Gray, yet again, a toss-up guy, gets targets, stuff like that. Those are just toss-up guys. There's not McKinnon down here as well, a guy to look maybe in the pass game, but they're using Edwards-Helaire. There's not a lot of value. Sky Moore is probably the only real big value I like down there on both sites. But other than that, it's pretty much mixing the big names and that mid-tier list. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys want to join us here, having some very good Sundays, trying to get there with the showdowns. But if you guys are interested in joining us, the link for that will be in the description down below. Join our Discord. Has bets, DFS, fantasy, any questions you guys have, stuff like that. If you guys did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I appreciate that when you guys do. So I will see you guys in the next one.